points racing is back a week from today with the Daytona 500. Let's talk about some season predictions and who I think is going to make the playoffs in 2025. Welcome back to Off Throttle, guys. My name's Andy, and let's talk about some season predictions, some things that I think are going to happen in 2025, but not just some simple things like Kyle Larson's going to win a race, Tyler Reddick's going to win a race, but some more bolder predictions. So let's hop right into those, and then after that, I'm going to tell you guys which 16 drivers I have making the playoffs in 2025. My first prediction for 2025 is that a former Cup champion is going to miss the playoffs. Now, it could be Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, and Kyle Larson. Last season, only one former champion missed the playoffs, and that was Kyle Busch, who didn't win a race for the first time in 20 seasons. Another 2025 prediction is that 23XI Racing will win 5 Cup races. Tyler Reddick won 3 races last year and very easily left 2, 3, 4 races on the table. I think Tyler Reddick can easily win 3, 4, 5 races on his own, and I think Bubba Wallace gets back into victory lane in 2025 with a new crew chief. And remember, the 35 car will be on track this year with Riley Herbst. 23XI has expanded to a third team, so Riley Herbst, the 35 car, the 23 car, the 45 car, those 3 cars, any combination of those 3, I think will combine for 5 wins this season. Another prediction I have in 2025 is that Joey Logano is going to win a crown jewel race. So either the Daytona 500, the Coca-Cola 600, the Brickyard 400, or the Southern 500. Joey Logano, Paul Wolfe, and that 22 team have a resiliency that very few drivers in the Cup Series have. And they find a way to just survive and scrape out wins. So I think in one of the 4 crown jewel races this season, Paul Wolfe and Joey Logano find a way to get into victory lane. Alright, I got 2 more predictions. The first one is that I think the San Diego Street Course is announced in 2025 to replace the Chicago Street Course. Now, the Chicago Street Course was great for a 3-year contract that NASCAR and Chicago had agreed to going into 2023. But the writing has kind of been on the wall that this is the final year of the street course, and now they're looking to see what else they can do with it. And San Diego has come up multiple times, and personally, I think it's the perfect choice. It gets you back into the Southern California racing market until Fontana can be completed. Whether that's 3 years away or longer, who knows, but at least it can get you a year or 3. And for Chicago, I would love it if Chicagoland could find its way back onto the schedule. I don't know how, I don't know who it would replace, what track I mean, but a return to Chicagoland feels like something the Cup Series should be actively looking to do with this generation car and how it races on the intermediate tracks. And I think that a former Formula One driver will make a Cup start in 2025. I don't know which driver, I don't know what track even, but I think it'll happen. Most likely Coda or Watkins Glen are the 2 most common, but we could see it at Chicago, we could see it at Mexico City, and I got no real reason to think this about Formula One drivers, but it's just a guess and maybe a little bit of hope that we could see some more crossover between the motorsports. But yeah, that's kind of my predictions of maybe a little bolder, maybe just some normal predictions, but just some things I think that are going to happen this year for NASCAR in the Cup Series. Now I want to go through which 16 drivers I have making the playoffs in 2025. And I'll start this from the top with the locks or virtual locks to make the playoffs. And there's not really much to be said about these drivers. I think we all kind of know, why they're locks. And those 6 drivers I have are Kyle Larson, William Byron, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, and Chase Elliott. Now those 6 drivers I think are all going to win a race at least and or be top 7, 8 in points and not have to worry too much about the cut line unless we have an 15 winner regular season or whatever we had last season. But then right after those, I have Denny Hamlin, who I don't think is going to really have any regression with the loss of Chris Gabehart. I think him and Chris Gale will get it clicking fairly fast, and they'll figure it out, and they'll win races, and the 11 car will look as the same as it normally has the past couple of years with Gabehart. After that, I guess let's get the Gibbs cars out of the way. I also have Ty Gibbs and Chase Briscoe making the playoffs. And now for Ty Gibbs, it was close last season. He ended up getting the 15th or 16th spot. And he didn't end the season very well. But I don't think that was a good representation of Ty Gibbs' season. I think Ty is coming up on his 100th start, and we've seen other drivers not win their first Cup race until their 100th start. And we've all seen the speed out of the 54 car. We know it's there. We know that it's only a matter of time until Ty puts it in victory lane. So I think that'll happen this season. I don't know if it'll happen early. I could see Ty winning a late summer race coming down the stretch towards the playoffs. But I do have him winning a race. And for Chase Briscoe, I think there's a little bit of something to prove in that 19 car for both him and James Small. I think James Small wants to prove that he can be a fast winning crew chief with more than just Martin Truex Jr., a future Hall of Fame driver. And I think Chase Briscoe wants to prove why Gibbs offered him the 19 car. I think he wants to really cement himself in the top names of the Cup Series. And I think Briscoe's very talented, so we'll see how that goes. I do think they win a race. I'm not as sold on the 19 car and Briscoe as everyone else is, I think, but I'm not against it. I don't know. I need to see it. I need to see what they're going to look like, but I do have them winning a race and making the playoffs this year. Over at Trackhouse, I think Ross Chastain makes the playoffs also. Ross was very, very consistent last season, and most of the time, he raced like he was just going to win eventually. And he just got to keep going for first, and he's going to get it. He's going to get a win. He's going to lock himself into the playoffs. It happened with Chastain that he left points on the table, and I think he would have needed those points a lot come the cut line last year. So I think they're going to race smarter. I think they're going to race better. I think Trackhouse will be faster. So I don't have any concerns about Chastain making the playoffs this season, really. And the last Hendrick driver I want to talk about, the fourth one to get in to make all four Hendrick cars into playoffs, is Alex Bowman. And Bowman has been a tale of hot and cold, it kind of feels like, the past couple of seasons. And that's outside of all of the off-track struggles that Bowman has had with injuries. So I don't think the previous 3 years are really a tale of where Bowman is, but I think last season is a much better sample size. And last season, Bowman looked really, really good at times. It looked like one of the most consistent drivers in the Cup Series in the first part of the season. But then he got really cold during the summer and was struggling and was falling back towards the cut line before his win in Chicago. That's concerning, but not concerning enough that I don't think he'll make the playoffs. I do think, at the very least, Bowman will point his way in, but I think he can find a win someplace. Next, I have Chris Buescher. Buescher was another one, like Ross Chastain, that was right near the cut line last season and got really, really close to victory lane a few times, particularly Darlington and Kansas, but didn't actually reach victory lane until Watkins Glen in the playoffs. Now, I think Buescher has proven over the past few years that he's a consistent winner. He's won in 2022 at Bristol, 2023. He won those 3 races in the summer stretch. Last year, he won at Watkins Glen. I think Chris Buescher is at this point almost a lock for a win yearly. So I think Chris Buescher gets a win. I do think it comes before the playoffs, and I think he gets in. The next driver I have making the playoffs is Joey Logano. The former Cup champion, the reigning Cup champion, will make the playoffs in 2025. He and Paul Wolf will find a way to win one of those races. And, I talked about it earlier. I think he'll win one of the 4 Crown Jewel races, and I think that's how he gets in. Whether that's Daytona or Darlington at the end of the regular season, I'm not really sure, but I do think Joey Logano finds a way to win one and gets in. The next driver I have making the playoffs is the 8 of Kyle Busch. And It's just got to happen. 19 years with a win, even with one of those seasons being at RCR where he got 3 wins in the first half, and then the RCR equipment, it feels, really tailed off. Maybe I'm maybe I'm not being fair there, but it felt like Kyle Busch just hit a wall with his equipment. And I still think it's in there. I still think he can win. We're going to have to see what the performance is across the 8 car and the 3 car. The 8 car will find a way back into victory lane this season. I don't know if Kyle Busch will stay at RCR after this season, but I do think he gets one more win in that 8 car. 2 spots left, and I have one of them going to Bubba Wallace. I think the 23 car finds a way to win a race and gets into victory lane and goes to the playoffs. I think the new crew chief is going to be a slam dunk for 23XI Racing. Denny Hamlin has said that they think they've got a superstar, a rock star in Charles Deneke. And I think he finds a way to get that 23 car into victory lane. And Bubba had a very consistent 2024 and was very close to making the playoffs. It came all the way down to the last lap of the final race of the regular season. And with a new crew chief, I think Bubba Wallace is motivated to make it work, make it happen, figure it out, and get back into victory lane. And I think Charles Deneke is the right guy for the job also. Denny Hamlin has said on Actions Detrimental that he thinks they found a rock star and that Bubba and Charles are a dangerous duo. So I do have the 23 car making the playoffs. Buescher, Chastain, and Bubba, the cut line battle from last season, I have all of them going to the playoffs this season. But the final driver that I have making the playoffs is Shane Van Gisbergen in the 88. I think SVG finds a way to win a cup race at a road course. And on top of that, I'll go a step further. I think he finds a way to contend for a win on an oval. I don't know if he'll do it. I don't know if he'll win the oval, but his rate of learning these cup cars is very fast. And it's only a matter of time before he can learn on the ovals too. He's figuring out the short tracks, and I know the short tracks are more similar to road courses, especially the Martinsville, Bowman Gray type. We've seen SVG get close to the front at drafting tracks too, so I think he could win a plate race, but more than anything, I just think he'll figure it out. I think he'll figure out how to race these cars, and I think he'll be a weekly top 10 contender by the end of the regular season. I do have SVG winning a road course race, and if I was to guess right now, I don't know why, but I'm guessing Sonoma. He won the Xfinity race there. He didn't participate in the Cup race, but he won the Xfinity race fairly dominantly. It'll be exciting to see him go back to Sonoma in a Cup car this year. But what do you guys think? These are my 16 drivers making the playoffs, and let me know down below who you guys have making the playoffs, if you guys have any different changes, different drivers. So yeah, that's going to be all for today, guys, but this is Off Throttle. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.